Hey, Shay with On 3 at Dixon. How do you handle a guy like Malik, who the mental side of things, when you know what he's capable of, he has a rough game right out of the gates? Kind of how do you turn around and treat him that next week in terms of preparation?
I think, having done this for, 3 decades, I think, I've had great players that have had, ups and downs, and you just show confidence in them. And by doing so, they'll choose confidence. They're great players, and I think the worst thing you can do is, not continue to show confidence and a belief in him. He's like everybody else. I mean, he wanted to, excel. He didn't catch punts in high school. I mean, but he wanted to do that here. And I give him great credit for wanting to do that. And so we just supported him. He had a really good week, and we expect him to, obviously, have a great game.
What does that say about him when he came out immediately caught his first few balls and jumped out of the shadow goal line?
Yeah, to me, like I said, I mean, you're going to have those kinds of days where nothing seems to, be positive, and I think it was my role to just be positive with him and know that we trust him and go back and work too, right? I mean, we have to spend more time and put him in pressure situations, and he was great this week in wanting to do that.
Hey, Coach, I think you said that the communication at safety needed to be better.
Mm-hmm.
I think all during camp, you and the other coaches said Major Burns was a great communicator, right?
Yes.
So was it some of the other guys, or what happened there?
Well, I just think overall, you can communicate, but it's still about, getting everybody to, do their jobs as well. So, sometimes, communication is one thing, but maybe wanting to do a little too much. Again, we spent most of this week really drilling down on making sure that those guys in the back end are doing a great job of visually looking at each other and acknowledging, kind of like, I know it's a bad analogy, but, there's always some kind of validation of a squeeze play, right, by the batter and the runner. We needed some kind of validation that they know what the coverage is and what the play is.
Yeah, hey, Coach. Glenn West with Go247. There's a video circulating right now, just kind of your post-game message to the guys after the Florida State loss. And you talk a lot about urgency and playing with urgency for 4 quarters. Just what does that look like to you in terms of what are the attributes you look for in a game setting of a team playing with urgency?
It's kind of what's out in the hallway is playing 4 quarters is to start fast. And so, we need to start fast. So, from a coaching standpoint, we needed to put our practice schedules together this week where, early in practice we were starting faster and, we didn't go right to individual. We went to some teamwork just to get our guys going. We have to, understand our personnel and how they play in an up-tempo situation. So, I think it's, like I said, we have to coach better, we have to play better, and then we have to look at, our start. And that sense of urgency is that every play matters. We can't wait till, the last 13 minutes of the game where we go, oh, okay, we got to turn it on. We've got to turn it on from the very beginning.
Hey, Coach. I spoke with Coach Paul Longo earlier this summer, and he was saying when you were at Cincinnati, you once had to buy tickets for an entire section to help fill a stadium. And so I'm wondering, have you thought about moments like that going into coaching a sold-out crowd at Tiger Stadium?
Yeah, I mean, it's been an interesting journey. I mean, when I was at Central Michigan, I went up in a lift to urge the students to come into the stadium in pregame. And I said, we'll play up tempo. We'll put points on the board. Come on into the stadium. And they kept partying in the parking lot. They didn't listen until we put up a lot of points, and then they started coming in. So I've been on this full cycle, and that's why it's going to be exciting to be in a home stadium like this where, you know, it is obviously partisan. It is LSU, and pretty excited about it.
Hey, Coach. We know Mason Smith's out and Mekhi Wingo's the next guy up. How's he been looking in practice? How confident are you about this defense going into the game?
I'm very confident. I mean, look, Mason Smith is an outstanding football player. I wish we had Mason Smith, but we don't. Unfortunate injury, but you know we've moved past that, and now we've got Mekhi starting in his place, and then we're going to have to have other guys step up as well, and that's just the nature of football, whether it's high school, college, or the NFL. You're going to have injuries, and they're going to challenge your depth. This one's going to challenge our depth, but we're excited for the guys that get an opportunity to come in here and play.
Brian, I know a little time has passed, but do you have any thoughts about the college football playoff eventually expanding to 12 teams? Is this something you're in favor of? Do you think it'll be good
I'm
for the
excited about it. I think a 12-team playoff is going to continue to keep everybody. You know, I just think about those November rankings that come out, and you know now. Then when it was 4, you know, you're looking down and you go, does the 12th place team really have a chance? You know, if he's 12th, you know, you really need to be higher ranked. But now with 12, you know, probably as deep as 20 teams now are involved. And I just think that's good for college football.
Coach, how did you think that Mason Taylor did in the game? It seems like he did pretty well as a pass catcher and struggled a little bit as a blocker.
Yeah, I mean, I think the realities of it are such that he's going to be able to continue to grow in the areas in which you mentioned. Look, I mean, he put on 20 pounds. You know, he's gotten himself stronger. He's still a true freshman, so he's going to have some, you know, growing pains there. But again, I'm excited about his progress, but there will need to be more progress in those areas, absolutely.
Hey, Coach, similar question here. With a guy like Will Campbell and having to play pretty much every single snap of that game, how's he sort of faring physically and mentally after a rush like that for
Yeah, so, you know, I think we have to do a better job of maybe rotating, you know, the tackles a little bit more and getting some more guys in the game, because that's a lot, especially for a true freshman. And he battled. I mean, he was out there battling. But then you lose some of your technique, and you know, it just becomes survival. And he's a warrior. I mean, he was out there battling every play. But I think we have to do a better job as coaches in making sure that there's a bit of a rotation with the tackles.
Hey, Coach, you have so many receivers. I guess some games, some guys won't get involved. But what does Jack Bech need to do to maybe get a little more involved in your receiving game?
I don't know that he needs to do as much. We've been very, very careful with him. You know, he had the stress fracture of his leg, and we didn't want to put too much on him early in camp in particular. As we begin to ramp up the season, he's going to get more and more playing time. A lot of it was just being really careful with him, so we didn't have any major setbacks.
Coach here on the left. Given y'all played y'all's best ball, obviously, into the fourth quarter, does that speak to the conditioning that y'all put in this offseason? What did you kind of think of how they looked from kind of there at the very end?
They looked good at the end. Their conditioning level was really good. I thought, you know, we had Florida State on the heels. That doesn't mean anything. We still lost the game. I'd rather be the team that won and wasn't as conditioned, quite frankly. But there are a lot of good positive things that we see with our football team in terms of that level of conditioning, and that we can push the tempo and continue to, you know, attack our opponents.
Coach, what's your thoughts on Southern defensive end Jordan Lewis? It seems like he can kind of play anywhere, a linebacker and DN.
Yeah, he can play virtually anywhere. You know, they've got, you know, it's an aggressive style of defense. they bring pressures, and again, there were times that we didn't handle the pressures as well. So, we're going to have to prove that we can do that because they certainly have brought a lot of pressures, and they have some athletes that can run and be disruptive. So we're quite aware of that, and practiced accordingly.
Brian, with Mekhi Wingo going up to number one defensive tackle, who moves in behind him now? Do you have somebody else?
Ty G will get some playing time there, certainly, and we're thin, quite frankly, at the position. So we're going to have to be creative. You might see some other fronts that give us a little bit more versatility instead of just 4 down all the time, just to give us a little bit more of a rotation than being in 4 down as much. Great. Thank you.